So we're over here at Harrison's booth, and we're talking about the 32 Classic.
Yep.
And so, one I've seen for this year, there's a couple new configurations that are going on, right?
Yeah.
So what's the deal there?
The deal there is when we started last year, when we launched it, we had one configuration, this configuration.
Yes.
And we started selling some consoles and finding out that people really wanted to customize things a little bit more. It's a pretty expensive piece of kit, so they wanted to do some special things. So we engineered 6 different frame sizes.
Okay.
And you can mix and match those and bolt them together and fill them up with however many modules you want, and some special patch bays and video monitors and things like that to really kind of create more of a bespoke console configuration. So that's pretty new. A lot of detail work involved in that.
Okay, and what's the largest frame size?
The largest frame would be three of these together, and that would get you 96 channels.
96 channels. And then what is the smallest frame size?
It would be from there to right here.
Okay.
And that'll get you 16 channels.
Okay, and what are we looking at for a 16-channel version, and what are we looking at?
Actually, that's a custom order, but this console as it sits is $106,000, 32 channels.
Okay, and that includes the digital I/O.
That includes the digital I/O.
Okay, and can you get it without the digital I/O?
No.
Okay, because
standard with the
last year that was an option, right?
Yeah, it's not an option anymore. It's included.
I've been curious about that because I've heard that now it's only available in the one configuration with the converters.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the big thing that I want to talk to you about is tell us about these converters, because people have a lot of questions. From my understanding, this is a 64 input and a 64 output Dante converter, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
at 96 kilohertz.
At 96 kilohertz, you can have 64 in and out. So does that mean you can have a 128 in and out at 48K?
No, they only run at 96 kilohertz, and it's 64 by 64.
So it's only 96K. So you couldn't use this at 44.1 or anything. No. So just 96K. Okay, and then with that, you have the ability to take this console and connect it with one Ethernet cable to a computer, and then at that point, you're transferring that amount of audio, right?
You're transferring in 64 channels and bringing back out 64 channels.
Okay, and when, a big question that people have with that is, if you were to connect this with Ethernet, would you be able to just go and open up Pro Tools and see the 64 outputs? Does it populate itself?
Well, Pro Tools will show you how it's routed, how Pro Tools is routed to the interface.
Yes.
Which would be a Dante interface.
Yes.
DVS or some other Dante interface.
Yeah.
And then that interface is what actually would route the audio to and from the console.
So that's the question that people have. Do you need another Dante interface?
No, not another Dante interface.
Just Dante software.
You need the controller.
The controller. Okay, very, very cool. And, if you have a 32-channel console like this, another question that people have, and I think I understand the answer a little bit, but I want to hear it from you, is what are the other 32 ins and outs for?
Well, you've got a lot of things. Well, the first 32 are, of course, the 32 channels coming in.
Yep.
Then you have 32 direct outs going to the DAW.
Yep.
You also have 8 bus outs.
Yep.
You have insert points on those bus outs.
Yep.
We have monitor returns. We have a 12-wide monitoring return from Dante. So the other 32 by 32 are used in the master section.
So when you say the inserts are on the Dante?
Yeah.
Interesting. How does that work out?
Well, you're sending the audio over to a DAW.
Okay.
And if you have a plug-in and you want to have it on that insert point and send it right back, you can do that.
Oh, perfect. So you can actually...
You don't have to digitally patch it instead of...
You can insert an or a plug-in right on the analog buses of this using... And that's actually a very, very smart way to go about
It's a really smart way to go. You can also do that analog.
Yeah,
those insert points.
I was going to ask, that was my next question. I saw some Steely Dan happening through this console yesterday, and the bus compressor was going up there. So I'm assuming that bus compressor is just living on the insert point over here in the master section.
Exactly.
So
and that's just an analog output. Insert point going on.
And, do you offer a pre-configured patch bay for this?
No, not no.
Yes.
We don't offer patch bay. But I offer a patch bay layout description of how, if we were to make a patch bay, here's what you would want to do.
Yes, okay.
We don't offer a patch bay because patch bays tend to be a little pricey and a little finicky. People don't use all of the patch bay. People don't want to pay for things they don't use. So the interfacing is all done with D-sub connectors. It's very easy to interface patch bays or to cable, however somebody wants to get in and out of the console. They can do that. They can do that on their own.
Very, very cool. And when on the back of this desk, or when it comes to setting up with a patch bay, are there any of those 64 inputs, on the later side of them that are just available for, returning synthesizers or stuff like that?
Yeah, there's a whole 32 in by 2 summing matrix built into the console.
Oh.
So you can bring keyboards in, stem returns, effect returns.
Where does that live?
Those are at the very top of this module. You'll notice these 2 switches.
They say return.
They say return, and there's a separate input on every one of these modules that feeds a stereo bus, comes here, and then you can put it down into the mix. And that's completely independent from the rest of the console.
Okay.
So it's a 32 by 2 summing mixer built into the console.
So does that control the level? Is that controlled by the
there's no level control.
Yep.
It's just an input straight to a left or a right bus.
That is amazing. And the left and the right bus are controlled right there.
Yep.
And then I would be able to record that just by recording the stereo mix. So, if I wanted to, is there any other way to record this without sending it to the stereo mix?
Yeah, well, that has an output on its own.
Perfect. So you could literally, that's what I was going to get to. You could set up, see, this is we're getting into some shit here, because you could set up all of your microphones live in your live room.
Yep.
And then you could take 32 channels worth of keyboards in your control room.
Exactly.
And then you could leave them at the top of this console. And then when someone comes in and they say, okay, I'm in the control room and I'm standing next to the Moog and the Rhodes, you can put them, left for the Moog and right for the Rhodes.
Bingo.
And then that goes into its own keyboard return, not with your stereo bus, so you don't have drums and shit coming through.
Don't have anything there.
So
you can do anything you want with that.
there's a lot of features. Every time I talk to you about this desk, which is why I came back over here to talk to you about it, I learned something new. And one thing that I've learned about is this. So is this a transformer option that's going on here?
Yeah, there's a transformer on the main stereo output.
Yep.
And you can switch that in and out. So it's both electronically bounced and transformer bounced.
That's very cool.
Which is nice. So if you want a little flavor on there, you can pop that in.
Okay.
Some people don't care whether that's there or not. You have to have really good ears to hear the difference between those two things. But a lot of people do.
I've seen it living in Transformer land over here.
Yeah.
Is that where you like to live?
Yeah, most people will leave it there.
Okay.
It just does something.
Okay.
Hard to describe.
No.
But when you pop it in, you go, okay. I'll just leave it that way.
I'm a big fan of Transformers, so the subtle nuances are probably not lost on me, but I will say I've never been able to fully experience them because I've only listened to this here at the AES show. But that said, I'm so happy to see you bringing this back to life. I have seen this console go into some studios, It's nice to see it hitting the road and actually starting to be adopted. Yeah. Can you tell us how many of these you've been able to install since the last time we saw you last year?
Well, we're moving 1 or 2 a month, so it's a nice little clip, and it's speeding up. So,
amazing.
It's starting to catch on. It took a little while to get the ball rolling, but now that we're rolling, it's nice.
It's very cool. Great job, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with next, which I have been hearing some rumblings about these 500 series.
Yeah, there's a rack over there if you want to go over and take a look at them.
Yep.
I can tell you about that too if you want to go.
Yeah, let's go. This is the new...
Right. We have 3 new 500 series modules. So we have a preamp module, an EQ module, and a compressor module.
Okay.
So the preamp, the gain is the red knob there. That preamp is exactly the circuit from the console.
Okay.
So we took that circuit, we put it in a 500 series module, and we also put the high pass and the low pass filters.
Oh, really?
On there. So you got a really nice preamp, really nice filters, all in one 500 series panel.
Beautiful.
With a front panel connector, so you can plug a microphone in there, or an instrument. There's a high impedance switch there, so if you're going to plug your guitar or bass or an instrument in there, you can.
That's awesome.
Directly on the front. So that's the mic input. That goes for $699. You can buy that at Sweetwater or Vintage Cane, wherever you buy it.
Great price.
Wherever you buy your gear. So this module is an equalizer, and it's not from that console over there. It's from a console that came a little bit after that console in Harrison's
I see over
history.
here that it says MR3.
It says MR3. That was a console we made in the very early 80s.
I know the MR2.
Yeah, it was of that vintage. MR2 was a bigger version of the MR3. It was a little bit smaller.
Okay.
And the reason we chose that EQ, 2 reasons. It fit in this form factor. I couldn't fit that EQ in this little bitty 500 series form factor.
Okay.
So physically it was not possible. So we went forward a limit and said, what do we have that we could put in that form factor? And we made this MR3 console in the early 80s. And it's a 3-band EQ. variable Q on the mid-band, which is really nice. It's a very, very nice equalizer.
Awesome.
And really usable. It has a high-pass filter on it. It all fits in this nice package here. Beautiful sounding equalizer.
So this filter, how different would you describe this filter versus the one in the 32?
This high-pass filter is exactly the same filter.
Yes, and you know, just
but you'll notice there's no low-pass filter.
yes, but I mean that's a great high-pass filter.
It's a really, really good.
And for
high-pass.
most people out there on the internet, just so you're aware, one thing that gets me very excited about this 32C is that Bruce Swedien, who loved using these consoles.
My good friend, R.I.P.
Oh, he absolutely cherished his Harrison, and he would always say that he tried to get everything done with the microphone preamplifier and the filters if he could. So this is pretty.
That's why we made that.
Yep.
That's exactly why we made
Yeah,
that.
that's awesome. So very, very cool. And
So then the third module is a compressor, and in Harrison's history, we weren't really famous for compressors. In fact, we never made a compressor.
I didn't know of a compressor
up until the mid '90s.
Oh.
We started making analog broadcast consoles, and the request from those customers was, we got to have some leveling, we got to have some automatic gain control, because they're dealing with sources, wild sources. They don't know where they're coming from. They don't know what levels. People don't know how to talk into a microphone, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And so we designed a very simple feed-forward VCA compressor with a really fast attack time to do leveling for broadcast consoles in the mid-90s.
Okay.
And so when I was thinking about making a third 500 series module, we're trying to figure out what to do, what do we have? And the idea came, hey, maybe we should dip our toes into this compressor business a little bit. And we did, and we made this a very simple threshold, ratio, release time, gain makeup, very fast attack time.
Awesome.
And it's beautiful. You can't make it pump, and it sounds great.
Okay.
And also $399.
$399.
$399 for the EQ, $399 for the compressor, $699 for the preamp, because it's got that Jensen transformer
Yes.
on there, which drives the price up.
But you're saying for under $1,000, you could get a full channel strip for the processing with not the mic pre.
No, not the.
Yeah,
no, but
but
these
I'm
two,
talking,
yes.
for a mixing context, you could get an actual.
For $800, you can get those two.
And that's one hell of a deal,
That's
in
a
my
bargain,
opinion.
I think.
Yeah, and I mean everything that I've ever used from Harrison is admittedly old, but all of that stuff was great.
Well, it all sounds good. Their circuit designs are fantastic.
Yeah.
We just pull them forward, use better components, design the circuitry a little bit different, and 50 years is a long time, and
So,
things are much better.
I know things progressed, and I know that Dave was a really, really smart guy, and I know at some point there were other engineers who were also doing a lot of the design. But, the consoles that I've had the most experience on were an old 4032, and then a Series 10.
Yeah.
And I've always felt that they were both world-class consoles, but very different from each other.
Oh,
while also being somewhat familiar in sound.
The analog circuitry was not that different between those consoles.
Yes.
Of course, one came 10 years after the other.
Yes.
The Series 10 was 10 years after the original Harrison.
Yep.
I worked on all of those Series 10s. I helped David design that console.
Okay, yeah, I worked on the one at CRC.
Oh,
Yeah,
you did with Tim.
Tim Butler. He was my mentor, one of them. Way back in the day.
Very good friend of mine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was a
He's-
fucking asshole.
He was, but I liked him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him. We had some good times. Good guy.
The exhibit and, the whole.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what I will tell you is the circuit design.
Yep.
It didn't really change that much. One was digitally controlled.
Yeah.
And the other one wasn't.
Yeah, I mean.
That was the major change.
And that was the thing that was wild to me is like, one I feel like I'm using an analog console. The other one I feel like I'm flying a spaceship. Both sound great.
Yeah. Yeah. They both kind of sound the same. I mean, so there wasn't a lot different in the audio performance of the two.
Yeah.
How they worked was radically different.
Yes.
And then we took that into the film world and did big, large film, digitally controlled analog, large format stuff for years and years. But the circuits themselves, the equalizer circuit, doesn't matter whether you're digitally controlling it or controlling it with a knob, a pot, the circuit behind that's the key, and that David was very good at that.
Yeah.
There's some secrets there that we pull forward. And so when we made that console and we start making these, now we're using really efficient chips. The circuit board design is much, 30, 40 years better than it was back then. Grounding, all the things that you learn over time. What that means is you take really good circuit designs that were good then, pull them forward 50 years, and they're way better. You took something really good and made it really good.
That's awesome.
And that's kind of what we've been doing. So, and we knew that would happen.
Very cool.
We needed a way to do that and a reach to be able to sell those things. We got a good brand. We've been around a long time.
Oh, absolutely. And I love to see the resurgence, because it really Harrison became about film consoles and dub stages and stuff. And
we kind of went away from music.
Yep.
Well, not kind of. We completely veered away from the music.
Yep.
Spent a lot of time in the film world. 25 years I spent working in that industry. And that whole business has changed, and we thought, you know what, let's go back to the beginning a little bit and pull some of those really classic circuits forward and make some nice products out of them.
Yes.
That's what we've been doing. So it's really nice. I'm enjoying it.
I think you're doing a great job.
I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Very nice to talk to you.